It's Dave Joe Hal. Pleased to be joined by Joe the Juggernaut Joyce. How are you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good. Still messing with the settings. I knew, I've set it up on my computer, so I've got the camera and I've got my microphone. So it's just a few technical difficulties. I obviously couldn't hear you at first, but we've solved that now. So I'm ready to get to it.
Good stuff. And I think a fitting sort of where a place to start would be, what have you been doing during the pandemic? What have you been doing to keep fit? It was all a shock for us when your fight in particular was postponed as well. But what have you been doing to keep active, mentally, physically, and so on and so forth?
Well, I have been, obviously since the lockdown, I've managed to get out on my bike and ride around the hills in the countryside, and I don't know, like do some runs and here and there. I went to Brighton Beach yesterday and went in, braved the water, went for a swim.
Yeah.
That's I've been ticking over and that nicely. But yeah, it was obviously devastating news when I heard about the fight in Vegas, and us having to, throw the towel in and come back early. It's heartbreaking, really, because for all that time, the blood, sweat, and tears, the money into that training camp, and I put everything in because change trainer to beat Triple D, and the whole thing's been postponed. I had a choice, like, what fight do you want, and I had a list of opponents that I could potentially have fights, and this was the best fight out there for me at the time, and beating Dubois would have catapulted me into the limelight to be facing off for the world title. So it's just been postponed, and it's a bit heartbreaking. But I mean, boxing is I get used to that kind of thing, because you get let down a lot. Like, things happen, you miss things, or I don't know, you don't get the right decision you want, or
yeah.
You kind of have to get a kind of thick skin. So I'm a tough guy. I'm the juggernaut. So I just keep moving forward.
Brilliant. And are we still right in thinking that it's going to be in July, the fight? I mean, Frank Warren was saying it was going to be, was it July the 11th, the date that was touted?
Yeah. So that's out the window now. As it being the 3rd of June. But yeah, wait, what am I talking about? 11th of July. Yeah, no, I don't know. Well, because things are changing all the time, but what am I talking about? I don't even know what day it is. What am I saying?
It's one of them, isn't it? With pandemic, we don't even know what. It's a Tuesday today, isn't it? Yeah.
So July 11th. It's very unlikely it will go ahead, because Frank Warren himself said that it's a fight that needs to be with a crowd. It needs to be with a crowd watching, with the atmosphere. The tickets were sold out, and we're just going to have to wait until it's there can be crowds in the crowds again. So
yeah,
so it might have to be postponed again to a later date when sports can have crowds again.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it? I mean, that the build-up, I'll be honest with you, was phenomenal. Good Morning Britain, your appearances on there. Daniel was saying some pretty loud things, shall we just say, as well. Was that a surprise? Some of the stuff he was coming out with, did it hurt you as well?
Yeah, I was quite surprised how vocal he was, and I felt, he insulted said some things about my mum which I wasn't too happy about, and I was ready to take them out on him in the fight. But there's plenty of time for that, and it could have been said in mistake. But I was just really looking to, as a person who likes boxing and likes a challenge, it's just so hard to, like, you know, get your hope, like, not get your hopes up, but like, you have a goal, you have a date,
Yeah.
and you try and prepare your body and your mind and, you know, your tactics and everything for that fight, and then it just gets taken away. So I treat it as a way to you know, to wind down, like how I would have after a fight, and have a bit of a break from boxing, wind down, and just have a bit of a holiday, because, you know, the weather's been nice, and, you know, get down to the beach when I can, or, you know, just out in the sunshine, getting some of that vitamin D, and staying healthy and keeping my immune system up.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was looking forward to to watching it, to be fair. And it was one of them fights, Joe, where there wasn't a conclusive sort of outcome, because you're both, you know, good at what you do, and you're both very good prospects. I think you're right, where this fight would have catapulted the winner to the next sort of level. But when Frank Warren started talking about, like, say, Dubois versus Wilder, was that a surprise for you, where your name was kind of not shifted, but just like, oh, we could potentially have Wilder? What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess it's a bit disrespectful thinking he's just gonna, like, preparing his next opponent like he's just gonna walk through me like I'm nothing, with all what I've achieved in boxing. Yeah. Unless they're going from another angle where they're thinking about an ulterior route.
Yeah.
So they obviously, whether the rematch happens with Fury, then I guess there's another plan there.
Yeah.
It's a big fight.
Yeah. I mean, do you think if that fight was to happen, I mean,
I think it's too soon for Dubois to be fighting Wilder anyway.
Yeah, former WBC champ. It's going to be a big fight if it does, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to speak to you about was, you know, being part of the Olympic team before, and, you know, you've been there, you tasted the glory, and, you know, a prospect such as Fraser Clark was going to go over to the Olympics, and now that's been put aside as well. If that was you, how would you be feeling in that sort of mindset? I mean, the Olympics now, it must be devastating, right?
Oh, it's heartbreaking. I mean, all my condolences to Fraser and the, you know, rest of the boys and girls that were ready, you know, getting ready to go to the Olympic Games. It's like, you know, it's a sports person's dream, and it's so few people get to have that experience that to be postponed. You know, it's heartbreaking, because you do all that training. It's a 4-year cycle, and particularly Fraser Clark had to wait for, you know, he was on the team first, and Joshua came along, won the gold medal at London. I came along, won the silver medal at Rio. So it's his time to shine, and Dubois was out of the picture. He turned pro, because I thought them two would have been like at it to get the number 1 spot to go to the Olympics, and then this COVID happens, and then that just throws a big spanner in the spokes.
Yeah, I mean, no one saw this coming the way that 2020 panned out. To be fair, it's completely chaos, isn't it? I mean, if you had to do it all over again and something like this would happen, would you turn like the pro route straight away? I mean, when you first came on the scene, you fought Ian Lewison. I was there for that fight. It was a very, very good performance where you broke him down. And David Haye at the time when you turned pro was talking about fast track, and that was the word of the sort of your career, wasn't it? Fast track and getting your titles and everything like that as well. So do you think that people that have missed the Olympic sort of shout out for this year, they may be tempted to turn pro a bit earlier?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Fraser Clark, for instance, has been waiting a long time, so he might be tempted to just make the move. But obviously with David Haye, great start, good. He had the best setup to start with as a professional boxer. I had the Ishmael Salas. I had great gym facilities and really good trainers that would be training both me and David and the other team members on the team. The camp, as they call it, and then so you're gonna have to remind me of what else you was asking me.
It's just about the if someone had to turn pro now, would it be a bad thing as well going to the Olympics? That's what I was more or less leading into. Would you recommend someone going for the medal route or?
Yeah, I mean, me myself personally, I started boxing at the age of 22 and started at Ellswood Boxing Club.
Yeah.
And won the ABAs, got into the GB. I won the ABAs twice actually. Once when I was actually on the team, both against Fraser Clark.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say now. And I was not, because unlike a lot of boxers, I didn't start as a kid and had a lot of time to really learn and grow as a boxer.
Yeah.
So I was tempted after I won the ABAs.
Yeah.
When I won ABAs for Earlsfield with Louis Adolphi and Robert Garvey.
Yeah.
I mean Kurt Garvey. Sorry.
Yeah.
Kurt Garvey. I was tempted to go pro then.
Yeah.
But I'd only been doing it for a couple of years, and I was raw novice. I probably had under 20 bouts.
Yeah.
And then obviously I started to go to the GB team every other week, and then I was slowly learning. And it wasn't till WSB started that I got onto the GB team full time.
Yeah.
As a gym athlete, and then from there I really started picking up and improving rapidly, and especially with the WSB fights, I really had more rounds in the ring, so I learned a lot from that. And then before the Commonwealth Games, I was tempted to go pro again.
Yeah.
But then I thought, let me just do the Commonwealth Games, and lo and behold, I won a gold medal. So I was like, this is all right. And then obviously I got a taste of walking out in Glasgow to a massive crowd. They had the opening ceremony and all the meeting all the other athletes, and I really got a good taste for it. It was a really great experience. Won a gold medal. It was an amazing feeling, and it really puts you out there.
Yeah.
Because there's thousands of people watching you fight in a big arena and stuff like that. And it really whets your appetite for that. So so after that, I was like, well, it's only 2 years to Rio, so I might as well stick around and go to that one because I was a number one. And, before. Yeah. So then I thought I might as well stick around for that. And so the next target was to qualify, but I managed to qualify in I think it was the second to last qualifier.
Yeah.
And had to fight Medvedov in the final, but I was already qualified.
Yeah.
And then I beat him, and then I was like, oh great, well Olympics, here I come. And I really was dedicated, and in the preparations leading up to Rio, was training in an altitude chamber, and I had 3 coaches giving me pads, and I abstained for a long time to get prepared. And when I entered the Olympic training camp, it's just amazing to be part of something so big, and obviously you get even the crowds are even bigger there, and then I got to the final, and then I thought something was alright, but and then obviously I didn't get the decision, which was I came there I went there to get the gold,
Yeah.
And if when I started boxing, or even when I was in elsewhere before I was on the GB team, or when I first got on the GB team, if I thought then, I knew then that I'd go there and win a silver medal, I'll be buzzing. But the way how it was so close and I didn't get the decision, it was kind of like, it's kind of hard to swallow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, being in boxing, I know I've seen some questionable decisions. So I've always and I've received a couple as well. So I was quite accepting, not accepting, but I was like, it's boxing. That kind of thing happens. But yeah, after that, then I was wondering who I was going to go with, and everyone seemed to go with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom.
Yeah.
And obviously Anthony Joshua is leading the way, and so, credit to him because he's from London. He captured the imagination of the British public, and he brought boxing back into the limelight. So I'm very thankful of that. So when I turned pro, then I didn't want to go with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and have Joshua in front of me again, like how it was on the GB team.
Yeah, because you guys were teammates, weren't you? You, Dubois,
Yeah.
Fraser Clark, all of you.
When I first got on, Joshua was already qualified for London, so there's no chance of me being his rival for that Olympics. But in the pros, I started with David Haye. I chose David Haye in the end, and because he's great at self-promoting. And
You still close with him now? Do you guys still chat now and stuff?
Yeah, a lot of times at the BT events when there's a big fight or something, I'm normally doing a bit of having an interview. When they're standing up and punditry kind of.
Yeah.
So I chat to him, and we still get on, and we chat to him, see how he's getting on and that.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, one of the other things I was going to ask you about, I mean, I've recently read as well that you sparred Francis Ngannou, is it? Ngannou, yeah, that's the one. I'm so bad on my UFC.
You're confusing me now. I'm like, what's his name?
Yeah. My pronunciation. Apologies. I'm not very au fait with the UFC crowd, but I've heard he's a big deal from what I've read, and there's talks of him. Yeah, so I've heard there's talks between him and Dillian White possibly fighting. You sparred him. What is he like? Is he a good boxer?
He is a good boxer. He started off. Well, he told me he started off as a boxer originally, and then he moved to UFC. And so with UFC, there's you have different. It's a different distance. It's different discipline because you've got your hands, your feet, your. Can you use your elbows? Can they? Your knees.
I think so.
There's no headbutting or eye gouging. I know that.
Yeah.
But and you can go to ground and pound and stuff like that. So you have to learn all that, and physically he is an absolute beast and a tank. When we were sparring it, I had heavy duty sparring that day. I sparred with him and two other American guys.
Yeah.
And he can punch.
Because
he's not a boxer, because he's not doing boxing at a high level, his boxing is a lot more refined. It's a lot simpler because it's on your hands.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more refined, and your footwork and your distance, and slipping shots, and countering and different them kind of movements. I found I was able to get out of the way of his big shots coming at me, or at least blocking them. You know what I mean? There were some hairy moments in there, and was starting to really feel good. I was doing 12 rounds, and with my strength work, I was getting there, and I was about to start doing like more explosive stuff, and I was really becoming a bit of an animal at that stage. It was getting closer and closer, and I was just ready to put some dents in Dubois, because Ngannou's like similar stature and strength. So
what would you have done like to beat Dubois? Because it's fair to say that one of the biggest assets he holds is a big right hand, isn't it, and power. Most of his wins have come by way of knockouts. You're a powerful guy as well. How would you have fought him?
We're not going to give too much away, but I mean,
it's worth a try, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he has to. He has to first hit me, and I can take a shot. But he has to hit me first, so I can slip, block, or whatever, and I'll be firing shots back at him, lots of shots. And I think he's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. Dubois is he's an up and coming heavyweight contender, future heavyweight champion. But he hasn't fought the level of opponents that I have, or he hasn't fought anybody like me. I mean, sparring. But in a fight, in such a big fight with a whole crowd watching, and he's got to perform on the night as well. And I have performed at the top levels time and time again.
Yeah.
And see, the thing is with me, I deliver, and I find a way to win, and that's what I would have done. Find a way to beat him. Good. Using my experience and the skills that I've learned over the years. Good
stuff. And just very finally, I just wanted to get your opinion with obviously the sad news of George Floyd passing away. It's very close to my heart as well, in terms of what's going on the world faction. Do you think, from a celebrity stroke, people in a high status perspective, they should be putting something out there in terms of helping communities?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a very old issue with race, particularly in America, which hasn't been dealt with, and things are still going on. And it's time for the government and the police force to be really looked at, and change needs to happen, because the differences between it even happens in this country.
It does, yeah.
I mean, I'm a person of colour. I've obviously been stopped, and it happens. You can get racially profiled, and obviously it's devastating for his family and his friends that he was taken away like that, like in broad daylight.
It's truly horrific. And I've been reading a book saying photos that change the world, and that will be a picture, unfortunately, that has changed the world, with the devastation that's happening.
But it's important to change the world for the better.
Absolutely.
Like America and the rest of the world needs to learn from the mistakes of the past and move forward and make things better. Like me as a boxer, I always aim to improve, as a boxer and as a person in life.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be being stagnant and stale. You want to be like a river and keep on flowing and improving and keep moving forward.
Absolutely, Joe. And just very finally, before we call it a day, have you got a message for all the fans out there as well?
Yeah, just all love and respect for all the support that you give me, and I want to entertain and put on a great show for you, and try and and be active on social media and, and like show you a bit more of my personality and my views, my worldview.
You still doing the capoeira as well?
Yeah, I did a bit. I do a bit out there on the rooftop there. There's like artificial grass, or at the parks, or at the beach even. Like, I like to just have a bit of a mess about, do like a few cartwheels, handstands, and practice kicks and stuff like that. As well as doing shadow boxing, I always like to practice and try. But it's kind of trying to keep what I had before, or trying to get back what I. Try and keep it going, keep it moving, because me training for boxing, I'm improving in boxing, but then my other skill, like you need to like keep on. They're still there, but you need to like kind of keep them there.
Yeah, good stuff. Joe, all the best from the Boxing Voice, and we will catch up with you soon.
Free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.